Here's a knocking indeed. If a man were porter of Hellgate, he should have old turning the key. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there? I, in the name of Beelzebub. Here's a farmer that hanged himself on the expectation of plenty. Come in time. Have napkins enough for you. Here you'll sweat for it. Knock, knock. Who's there? In the other devil's name. Faith. Here's an equivocator that could both swear in both the scales against each other, in either scale, who committed treason enough for God's sake yet, could not equivocate to heaven. Oh, come in, equivocator. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there? Faith. Here's an English tailor come hither for stealing of a French hose. Come in, tailor. Here you may roast your goose. Knock, knock. Never quite. What are you? But this place is too cold for hell. I'll devil porter it no further. I had thought to have let in some of the professions that go the primrose the way to everlasting bonfire. Anon, anon. I pray you remember the porter.
Was it so late, friend, ere you went to bed, that you die so late?
Faith, sir, we were carousing till the second clock, and drink, sir, is the great provoker of three things.
What three things does drink especially provoke?
Marry, sir, nose painting, sleep, and urine. Lechery, sir, it provokes and unprovokes. It provokes a desire, but it takes away the performance. Therefore, much drink may be said in an equivocator with lechery. It makes him, and it mars him, and it sets on him, and it takes him off, and it persuades him, and disheartens him, makes him stand to and not to stand to. In conclusion, equivocation, or equivocates him in his sleep, and giving him the lie, leaves him.
I believe drink gave thee lie last night.
That did it, sir. I, the very throat on me. But I requited him for his lie, and I think being too strong for him, though he took up my legs, sometime, yet I made a shift to cast him.
Is thy master stirring? King has awakened him. Here he comes.
Good morrow, noble sir.
Good morrow, both.
Is the king stirring, worthy thane?
Not yet.
He did command me to call timely on him. I almost slipped the hour.
I'll bring you to him.
I know this is a joyful trouble to you, but yet 'tis one.
The labor we delight in physics pain. This is the door.
I'll make so bold to call, for 'tis my limited service.
Goes the king hence today?
He does. He did appoint so.
The night has been unruly, where we lay. Our chimneys were blown down, and as they say, lamentings heard I thy air, strange screams of death, and prophesying with accents terrible, of dire combustion and confused events, new hatched to thy woeful time, the obscure bird clamored the long-lived night. Some say the earth was feverous and did shake.
'Twas a rough night.
My young remembrance cannot parallel a fellow to it. My young remembrance cannot parallel a fellow to it.
Oh, horror, horror, horror! Tongue not heart cannot conceive nor name thee.
What's the matter?
Confusion now hath made his masterpiece. Most sacrilegious murder hath broke ope the Lord's anointed temple, a stole thence the life of the building.
What is it you say? The life?
Mean you his majesty?
Approach the chamber and destroy your sight with the new Gorgon. Do not bid me speak. See them and then speak yourselves. Awake, awake, ring the alarm bell. Murder and treason, Banquo and Donalbain. Malcolm, awake, shake off this downy sleep. Death does counterfeit, and look on death itself. Up, up, and see the great doom's image. Malcolm, Banquo, as from your graves, rise up and walk like the sprites that countenance this horror. Ring the bell.
What's the business that such a hideous trumpet calls to parley, the sleepers of the house? Speak, speak.
O gentle lady, 'tis not for you to hear that I can speak. The repetition in a woman's ear would murder as it fell. O Banquo, our royal master's murdered.
Woe, alas, what in our house?
Too cruel anywhere. Dear Duff, I prithee, contradict thyself and say it is not so.
Had I but died an hour before this chance, I had lived a blessed time, for from this instant there's nothing serious in mortality. All is but toys, renown and grace is dead. The wine of life is drawn, and mere lees is the vault to brag of.
What is amiss?
You are and you don't note. The spring, the head, the fountain of blood is stopped. The very source of it is stopped.
Your royal father is murdered.
Oh, by whom?
Those of his chamber, as it seemed, had done. Their hands and faces were all badged with blood. So were their daggers, which unwiped we found upon their pillows. They stared and were distracted. No man's life was to be trusted with them.
I repent them of my fury that I did kill them.
Wherefore did you? So.
Who can be wise, amazed, temperate, and furious, loyal and neutral in a moment? No man. The expedition of my violent love outrun the cause of reason. Here lay Duncan, his silver laced with the golden blood, and his gashed stabs where he looked like a breach in nature. For a ruin's wasteful entrance, there the murderers. Steeped in the colors of their trade, their daggers, unmannerly breached with gore, who could refrain that he had a heart to love, and in that heart courage to make love known?
Help me, hence help.
Look to the lady.
Why do we hold our tongues? That most may claim this argument for hours? Malcolm, what should be spoken here? Where our fate, hid in Augerhole, may rush and seize us. Let's away! Our tears are not yet brewed, nor our strong spoil upon the foot of motion.
Look to the lady. And when we have our naked fertilities hid that suffer in exposure, let us meet, and question this most bloody piece of work, to know it further. Fears and scruples shake us. It is in the great hand of God I stand, and thence against the undivulged pretense I fight of treasonous malice.
And so do I.
So all.
Hail.
Let's briefly put on all manly readiness, and meet I health together.
What will you do? Let's not consort with them. To show an unfelt sorrow is an office, which false man does easy out to England.
To Ireland our separated fortunes shall keep us both safer. Where we are, these daggers of men's smiles, in near in blood, the nearer bloody. This murderous shaft that shot has not yet lightened, and our safely way is to avoid the aim. Therefore to horse, and let us not be dainty of leave taking, but shift away. There's warrant in the theft which steals itself when there's no mercy left. Hello and welcome. We're going to start today with the summary from Act 2, Scene 3. So, in the scene, it starts out with a knocking on the door and the porter opens it. When he does, Lennox and Macduff enter. They have come to the castle to get the king and arrange for the royal departure. Macbeth takes Macduff to the king's chamber. When they enter, they find the king dead, but Macbeth is not questioned because he admits to killing the guards in the midst of his rage when discovering that Duncan is dead. Lady Macbeth didn't know that Macbeth would admit to killing the guards, so she faints as a distraction to get everyone's mind off of what he said. The Thanes of Scotland resolve to avenge the death of the king. Duncan's sons, Malcolm and Donalbain, think that they could be suspects of their father's murder, so they flee to England and Ireland. Okay, so we will begin with you, Cam, or Lady Macbeth. When you said, "What's the business that such a hideous trumpet calls to parley the sleepers of the house? Speak, speak. What was going through your mind about guilt and fear? Were you scared that people saw straight through your act?"
No, in the initial moments after Macbeth and I killed the king, our characters felt invincible. We felt like no one could possibly figure out what we had done. And no, I certainly did not have any guilt. Macbeth and I knew that we had to kill the king to carry on the prophecy of the witches.
You seem very confident in that position. So your character felt like no one truly saw what happened?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so Lady Macbeth did a good job convincing the rest of the characters that you had nothing to do with Duncan's murder. What do you think was a key moment to succeed in that?
I think one of my most important lines to do, that was when I said, "What in our house?" Although this is one of my shortest lines in the play, it says so much. I feel like this line manages to say that it is inconceivable that Duncan could be killed under her roof. It asks more than just what, it asks why, how, and when. This line captures all of Lady Mac's shock and confusion, while also managing to apologize for Duncan's murder under their roof.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's almost like that line, Lady Macbeth says that she feels guilty that she and Macbeth were responsible for Duncan's death just because it happened under their roof, and little did she know, or little did everybody else know, that she was actually sort of admitting to that, but since people didn't know what happened, it didn't say anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Cam, so I have one more question. When we said, "Help me hence ho," after Macbeth covered for almost giving up your secret, how do you think fainting assisted in finalizing your innocence? Do you think it made people forget about Macbeth's slip-up?
Yeah, I think it was crucial to Macbeth's success in covering up his confession. It created a disastrous transition, meaning that people were forced to forget what Macbeth had almost completely confessed to.
So about your faint, did you have motivation in faking it? Why didn't you just change the topic or plea to find whoever killed him?
Great question. I feel like if I offered to find whoever killed Duncan, would show that I'm overly involved in finding his killer, which could almost raise more suspicion. So I decided to faint because it separated myself from the conflict while also accomplishing my goal.
Great. Well, thank you for your time today, Cam.
Yeah, no problem.
What motivated your character to play dumb about the king's death when you said, "Whoa, alas, what in our house?"
When I was playing Macbeth in the scene, I decided to act as if I didn't know that the king was killed to fool the others. I acted like I didn't know anything. I didn't want the audience to know that I had partaken in the killing of the king, so I had to act clueless.
Were you ever concerned that you would implicate or endanger your wife, Lady Macbeth, when you came up with the plot to murder the king to become king yourself?
At first, I was focused on becoming king and making my wife happy. I had no hesitation in killing my friend until after it was done. Once I'd realized what I'd done, I was immediately consumed with guilt and regretted my actions.
When you said, "Oh, yet I do repent me of my fury that I did kill them," about killing the guards when you were concerned that the other characters would see through you, were you concerned that the other characters saw through your lie and found the real truth behind that statement?
Initially, I was scared that people would figure out that I killed Duncan, but in my line, who can be wise, amazed, temperate, and furious, loyal and neutral in a moment? No man. Expedition of my violent love outrun the pause of reason. I successfully came up with an excuse and concealed my murder in the rage I supposedly had for the guards.
So you killed the king to cover up the whole thing?
Yes.
When you said, "Those of his chamber, as it seemed, had done it, their hands and faces were all badged with blood," you were telling Duncan's son, Malcolm, that his father had been murdered. What thoughts were running through your head? What was your motive to say that?
I was in shock. I think everyone in the room was. My motivation was to inform Malcolm about what had happened. I thought it was the right thing to do at the time. He should know what had happened even though it might hurt him. I feel extremely bad for him. It must have been such a shock to take in all that information at once. But what had shocked me even more was that Macbeth said that he had killed them. Then he explained it was out of fury and rage and that no man could have kept his cool at a moment like that. Suddenly, Lady Macbeth fainted, so all the attention was pointed towards her and off of him.
Oh, okay. So next question. You were in a conversation with Macbeth when you said, "The night had been unruly. Where we lay, our chimneys were blown down, and as they say, lamentings heard in the air, strange screams of death." What did you mean by this? Were you implying anything?
I wasn't implying anything. At the time, I didn't know that our king had been killed. I was just saying that the weather had been awful that night. Macbeth and I were shocked when Macduff came into the room screaming and yelling that our king had been murdered. We ran towards his chamber, and in horror we found his body. His guards had blood all over their hands and faces, as well as their daggers. It seemed obvious who had done the deed.
I agree. Okay, I have one last question. When you said, "My young remembrance cannot parallel a fellow to it," what was your objective in the conversation with Macbeth?
I was saying that I remembered that night, but we were suddenly disrupted with Macbeth running into the room screaming horror, horror, and we stopped what we were talking about. Macduff explained that he had seen Duncan dead in bed. We quickly rushed out of the room to see if this was true, and unfortunately it was. Soon we were all awake and shocked at what had happened.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you very much.